So we can go to our next guest and second lecture in this session, Professor Michel Melenhorst, our guest from Detmold, OWL University of Life Science and Arts. He holds the chair for contextual design, building transformation, reuse, and cultural heritage. He is a member of Docomomo International and is active in Docomomo Deutschland Workgroup Education. He is coordinating the Master in Architecture at the faculty. He's project coordinator of the project Reuse of Modernist Buildings. Today, he will be sharing with us his experience in developing educational models and proactive approach for working with modernist heritage. I believe that those who are interested in the future of modernistic settlement structures or design, and those who are dedicated to the idea of proactive role of future architects, as well as those who have doubts in that, will give their full attention to this presentation. Professor Michel Melenhorst.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. And I will share my screen. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. So hello from Detmold. I think I'm the most today and some thoughts and some ideas on a project on since 2016. It's called R&B, Reuse of Modernist Building, and I want to emphasize or to look a little bit closer to one of the workshops that we did. But first of all, I will tell you about what is R&B. Actually, it has a lot of similarities to Hersens. We want to reuse modernist buildings. That might be clear from the title. We believe that our world will be a better world if we reuse more or continue to use. Reuse can also be just continuing using what we have. We started in 2016. The official end of the project was in 2019, but we continued afterwards with organizing all kinds of workshops and seminars, conferences. So let me explain you a little bit about the background of this project. We think, as I said, if we want a better world, we should reuse more buildings. We want to educate students in how to do this, and we want to educate students on a European level. We have been searching with a group of 6 partners, our university, University of Antwerp, initially Istanbul University. Later, the University of Belgrade came to the consortium, Coimbra, Technico from Lisbon, and Docomomo International. See if we can share the knowledge that we have within our faculties to set up an educational project that will educate students on reuse of modernist building on a European base. Modernist building, well, if you look at the chart at the right side, you can see that we have a lot of it. So in Germany, for instance, 30% of constructions were realized from 1949 to 1978, and then afterwards. So it's the majority of buildings. And if you intervene there, if you keep them and continue using them, it has a huge effect. In our educational program, it's not just about stones. It's about different things in modernism that we want to address. Society, the societal level. It's about spaces outside of modernist architecture, and on the use of material. We want to show how green or how sustainable modernist architecture often is. So these are 3 levels. And like I said, different partners from Europe brought in their specific knowledge to work on this project. It's interesting that we have 5 universities and 1 non-university, being Docomomo International. And I think from Docomomo International being part of our consortium from the start, we had a very activist approach. We just saw the lecture by us, and you can imagine something, so we really go for it. We talk with people, we phone them, we look for them to find projects that we can actually participate in. So that's important in this consortium. And then we also have some outsiders, I would say, which have a specific role. Terry from India, they will help us to connect from Europe to the rest of the world, to Asia, to South America, North America. And we have a supervisory board and an advisory board checking on what we're doing, bringing in their knowledge to make it a better project. So what are our tools, our methods, and our goals? We want to make combinations of traditional learning and e-learning forums, combine on-site events such as conferences and workshops, but also online events. In the meantime, we all have become quite experienced in these online events, remote teaching and design education, but it was not really self-evident in 2016 when we started. Like I said, we want to prepare a joint master on the reuse of modernist buildings. We want to contribute to better awareness and knowledge on reuse as a way to reach climate neutrality, carbon neutrality, and in general raise the appreciation of modernist buildings, resulting in preservation of important heritage in buildings and neighborhoods. Because, you know, this after-war modernism, after 45, is quite vulnerable, not much loved in many ways by people. But we found out that at the moment that you involve communities, people in thinking about a future for this, that preparation of the master, we used this working document. We defined different lines for design projects. Project is that students will travel and will different climate zones, different attitudes towards heritage and how to preserve it. So first semester, they are in the northwestern part of Europe, so somewhere in Detmold or in Antwerp. Second semester in Portugal, so Southwest Europe. Third semester in Southeast or Middle Europe, Belgrade, and initially Istanbul. And the fourth semester is free to choose for a thesis project. In the end, we made this out of it, and there are some lines continuous over 3 semesters. The history of modernism, which of course is a little bit different in the Northwest, Southeast, Southwest, and outside of Europe. So each semester there's the possibility to go deeper into the specific conditions on the place where the students actually are. Reuse theory and background. We have been reusing buildings since buildings exist. So we give them a background in this respect, energy and sustainability, also in urban space. 3 design projects with different focuses. And then there are some semester specials focused on typology, research and methodology, assessment of buildings in use, social aspects, housing, building construction. We will start this master September 2. Take some time, also Corona due, but we're in the middle of accreditation processes and fine-tuning the curriculum. And in the meantime, we continue with all kinds of activities. I want to share some of them with you to show you what we've done in those 4 or 5 years. We organized many conferences starting 2017, combined with a facade conference in Detmold. Coimbra, we had on the tools of reuse and design. We had a workshop, very interesting, cold workshop. It was incredible. April in Coimbra, I've never been so cold. And we had a 2-day conference. The last conference was very interesting in Berlin, 100 Years of Bauhaus, organized in collaboration with Docomomo Germany. We had some very good keynote lectures, David Chipperfield, Fernando Romero, and Milojević, and a lot of sessions, parallel sessions. What's interesting from these conferences and workshops that we shared the knowledge from them in magazines, like here in the architectural magazine of Coimbra University. So we not only used the conferences to get information into RMB to use in our curriculum, but also to share it afterwards. And Anna already presented Docomomo Journal, and after the Berlin conference, we made this journal on education and reuse with a very interesting interview with both David Chipperfield and Will Aretz that Anna and I held together in Berlin and Amsterdam. But let us focus a little bit on the workshops now, and especially perhaps the workshop that we did in Detmold. I want to highlight some things. But we had workshops in Germany, in Istanbul. We joined as a kind of startup workshop, a Docomomo workshop in Lisbon. We were in Marl, in Antwerp, and in Coimbra. We defined a strategy, a process for the workshops that we followed in all the workshops. So the first day is quite dense with presentations of the topics, some initial lectures with specialists from outside, site visits. We always worked on site with workshop. And then in 3 days, students define a concept, but not just define the concept, but also define a strategy on how to realize the concepts in a project. And then afterwards, the results are made public, presented, not just within the workshop group, but always with the municipality, with developers, with heritage specialists. So the results are shared to a wider audience. The focus of the workshop might be different. It can be on the location, the history, the climate, time. It can be on program. It can be on material. The student group is always like 40 students, and then 5 groups of background and qualifications. So both from where they come from, the region, but also their, it's a multidisciplinary workshop. Architects, it's also urban planners, heritage students, civil engineers, and that's also the idea for the RMB master, that we have a wild bunch of students, so to speak. So let us focus on this specific workshop after the military has gone that we organized 2019 in Detmold. It's a workshop in Detmold, but it has a meaning for the whole, because as you might know, after the Second World War, Germany was split in 4 zones: Russian, American, British, and French. And a lot of military came into Germany. Detmold was in the British zone, and the British occupied barracks that were built in the 30s by the National Socialist regimes. One of those so-called 100 days barracks. They were built in 100 days. Initially, it was just the barracks itself, so where the soldiers were. But after the British came and they wanted to stay for quite a long time, and they did actually from the late 40s till the late 90s, they built housing for the soldiers. I don't know, can you see my mouse on the screen? Or I can comment a little bit. So this here, this part is the barracks, and here you see the houses that were built. And like the barracks, it's very militarily organized. So you have apartment blocks for the soldiers, for the officers. You have doubles for the a little bit higher, and then here there are 2 small villas for the commanders. What you also see, what's interesting, is that there are no plots. There is no, they all stand on common ground, so to speak. those soldiers would live here for a couple of years and then return to Britain. So they had no time really gardening or taking care of the area just around their houses. And what's also quite interesting, although it's not a gated community, there was no interest from the military to connect to the city of Detmold. Because, you know, when a war starts, it's not good to have emotional relationships with the locals. So it was not closed off, but Detmold people did not go there, and the military did not go into Detmold, or hardly did. So after the military left, oh, I see it's not working. Sorry, it's hanging. Yeah, now it's continuing again. And now sorry for this. I see that my drawings are still there. So now they're gone. So here you see the different typologies in the area, marked by color. But what I wanted to say, that after the military had gone, it was still an enclave within Detmold. Nobody knew about it. Nobody went there. It remained empty like a ghost town for 10 years, more even, 15 years. And the only thing the municipality could think about is demolish it and build something new. So here you see some of the apartment blocks in the area. We offered them to organize a workshop, international workshop, to see what could we do if we can in any way make these houses match the needs of contemporary society. I think that's always the goal that you have to follow. Here you see an extreme example of Candelas and Woods in Morocco and how it looks afterwards. So something happened in between. You might not like it, but somehow they used the buildings in a different way than how they were built, and exactly that's what we wanted the students to research. We defined themes before for the students, so that we would have a quick start. And one of it was, can these houses change in size? Can you add or can you take parts away? So it's about growing and it's about shrinking. Another thing is, how can young and old live together? Are they accessible? Are they big enough? Are these houses usable for living together of more generations? Is a very important topic at the moment, also in Germany. But also, Detmold being a student town, can you think of other kinds of living together, like the commune? Can you realize these kind of living together forms in these houses? Can they become productive? Because, you know, they were just housing, but can we have shops? Can we have offices? Can we have workshops in these buildings? Should it be always in one house that I live? Can I have a relation living in one house and my partner lives in another house, living apart together? Is that an option for these buildings? And then the last topic was the house, we called it. Can people from Detmold realize their suburban dream of having their own freestanding house with garden based on the typologies that we have? We had a workshop with 12 different nationalities working there over a week on these topics, and they made a very beautiful booklet. I don't do justice to them, not presenting it now, but it's just not enough time to do this now. With the results, and that makes it special, we informed the design workshop that continued in a smaller group of students to work with the results of the workshop. And we did it in a way that's often used in participation models called Now, How, Wow. And it takes all ideas serious, but says, okay, this one is easy to implement. We know about it, we know how it goes. It's good to do it here. So that's fine. How? It's a little bit more difficult. It's innovative, breakthrough ideas, but they can be implemented. And wow are the green ideas, not to forget, but perhaps for the future. So every single idea is taken seriously, which is important. So nothing falls down. So we did with the results of the workshop, we tried to bring them into these now, how, wow categories. And we soon noticed that many of the ideas had to do with actually a pretty, with a change of context. So which is a very modernist approach. Actually, we see here Marcel Duchamp bringing ordinary objects into a museum and then they become art. But you can take the same approach for building, changing the context and changing the meaning of it. It can be building parts, it can be materials, it can be the neighborhood. And I want to show you two projects by students who actually took this way with reuse of material, building parts, change of entrance positions, change of plot size and forms, also about property. And the first one is a project by Marvin Dusterhuis. And what he said, in the 60 years of existence, a lot of additions, good, bad, were made to these houses. If we want to retrofit them, they should be taken out, but perhaps we can use them. We can continue using them, but change their position. So take out the plastic fence, window frames, the roof tiles, not the best condition for a roof tile, but perhaps they can become cladding for a facade. Also the fences around the plots, can we use them in a different way? And also the plaster stones, a lot of plaster stones in this area. Can we make it greener and reuse the plaster stones? So he took one of the apartment blocks, made an energetic restoration of it and made a new cladding with old roof tiles. He also took the rooftop, which was built in wood, and lifted it 2 meters to make it accessible. So it's interesting what's happening. You make a continuation of the materials over time, but reposition it so people will still recognize it from form and color. And here, for instance, in this rooftop, all of a sudden the chimneys, they don't peep out of the roof anymore. They become objects in this space. So it's an interesting change of context, and also the transparency inside outside is of course different here in the rooftop than it is in the other areas where you still can see the old facade shimmering through the new covering. What he also did is maintaining the blocks which are there, but adding to them. So change the form of the urban space, make it more specific. And also here, he took parts of roofs, changed it. So the wood of the roof is used again, but the form of the roof is changed, marking an entrance here. And this entrance is marked again with old rain pipes, covering stairs going up there. And like you can see here, there is a diversity of spaces compared to the original situation. Perhaps an even more low-tech approach only has to deal with changing the lines of the plots on the side and about property. What the student did is, so this on the left is the original situation. Street, double houses, and step by step he made a patchwork of new plot sizes. And what's interesting is that actually the size of the plot and the position of the house on the plot informs, makes it contextual. So the entrance will be different if your house is on the back side of the plot or if it's at the street. So here you see some nice models, conceptual models that he made. And here we see the actual urban plan, and then parts of it become a basketball field, also little places for parking. Sometimes the house needs an addition, but you see that originally everything came from the same size. It was uniform, and here it is a diversification of the basic material. So there are some interesting effects of these workshops and the working out in in the design project. Actually, this doesn't look so spectacular, but we convinced the city of Detmold to organize a competition in reusing the buildings. Initially, they wanted to demolish them, but with the results, they were convinced that they have more possibilities and more potential in them than what they initially thought. And also by making the result public to the Detmolders in the newspaper, inviting them for the presentations, people became aware of the qualities that were there. That's something that we found out in all the workshops that we did, that the reactions from the locals, so to speak, that now they found out, this is what modernism is about. And they also found out, well, demolishing them is not such a good idea, as our cities change too fast. People start to be proud on what they have, and very important, building has a character like humans. So you should give it time to grow and to develop. Can preserve it, but you can also continue using it. Never knew this house had so much potential. People also say, yeah, this is actually where I grew up. Like I also grew up in the 60s, 70s. And so it's part of my heritage. Let's keep some more. Growing awareness, very important thing. So over the time, and already from the start, but more and more also thanks to the Docomomo approach, we became sort of R&B activists. So we organize workshops, not always telling the people involved what we are going to do, because often they are afraid that something will come out they don't like. Developers, so we say, it's for students. And they learn a lot, and they actually do learn a lot, but in the end, we also use it in a political way. So I want to invite you to our next action, which is going to take place in September, if Corona will allow us to do so, because we want to work on site, not online. So it's Bielefeld, not far from Detmold, like 400,000 inhabitants, and we identified 2 zones that we start working on. On the right side, it's the old University of Applied Science that moved outside of the city and left vacant a very interesting building. And here on the market, it's the old police station. This is the old university, which has a very nice auditorium. And it's one of those unspectacular but very well-made good buildings from the 60s, 70s. We go into it, we will work there with students for a week, we'll sleep there, we cook and think what can be the potential for it, because it's listed to be demolished. And as often it's motivated, this demolishment, by there is asbestos in the building, so we have to demolish it, which is completely ridiculous, because regulations in Germany, and I think everywhere, are so strict on how to demolish, how to take out asbestos, that the moment that they did so, they have a perfect building free of asbestos to continue to use. So it's a ridiculous reason. Anyway, the next workshop will be here September 2021. If you like to participate, contact me. We'll be working here in this space and make nice proposals for the future, and hopefully they will change their mind and try to keep the building. I think in the end it comes down to this, that anything becomes interesting if you look at it long enough. From Gustave Flaubert, and I think very often that's the problem. People just don't look long enough at the potentials and the qualities of the buildings. So that was my presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and of course, open for questions.
Thank you very much for this inviting presentation. In the end, I think that workshops are very important, our method and tool in educating architects, and nowadays we have a problem implementing them. So I'm thinking about alternative way or tools during these days and online format. Do you have any suggestions for us in that sense?
How we can continue doing this with online? Well, yeah. Actually, we did some experiments with it. We worked with a small group which was there, and we had advisors online. So we had a specific topic, and we would be working in Germany, but students from from Lisbon, from Coimbra, from a distance, they would support us and check similar situations or bring in their knowledge or say, we did it like this here. So that's perhaps a mixed possibility to continue doing that.
Yes, there is a trouble to make a connection between and experience of, on the other hand, a topic and the site.
Yeah. That remains difficult because I think, you know, if you're working with buildings, you want to smell them, you want to touch them, which is also a great benefit in working with heritage, that it's there and there are people that might be using it, so you can talk to them and share the experience. Yeah, but we also became more, that's the optimum form, but we became more experienced the last year, I think, in filming and being online and sharing things. But it's, yeah, it remains suboptimal, I would say.
I hope we will see you on the site.
Hope so too.
Thank you very much, Professor Michel.